Good afternoon, students of Bohol Island State University, Calapi Campus.
Welcome to our webinar on explaining smart sensor.
I am Jessica C. Krita, a third year BSIT Electrical Technology student.
And I am Jeramel Angraderos, also third year BSIT Electricity Technology student.
This session is sharing of knowledge and expertise that would empower every one of the participants here to have a better outlook in the future, especially to further understand about smart sensor.
For this afternoon talk, we will enlighten and feed us for more information and highlights in the line with smart sensor. At this moment, let me introduce to you our speaker. In his elementary years, he was graduated at Lawis Elementary School in Catagbacan, Norte, Ilocos, Bohol, and he completed his junior high school at Saint Teresa Academy in Catagbacan, Norte, Ilocos, Bohol, and also graduated his senior high school Gas Strand at Saint Teresa Academy in Catagbacan, Norte, Ilocos, Bohol. Now, currently taking as third year on his bachelor's degree, BSIT Electrical Technology in Bohol Island State University, San Isidro, Bohol. And he finished his 3-day seminar about the smart sensor at Cebu City, Philippines. So let me introduce to you our guest speaker for today, Mr. John Saragulay. A round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, students of Bohol Island State University Calapi Campus. At this webinar, we will tackle about the recent technology, the smart sensor, and how important smart sensor is. So, students, are you familiar with from the word smart sensor? I know a lot of students here, especially electricity students, know about smart sensor. So, the sensors are devices that responds to physical stimulus, heat, light, sounds, and pressure, magnetism, and motion. And it converts that into an electrical signal. They perform an input function. The device which perform an output functions are generally called actuators and are used to control some external device for events.
Transducers are devices
Known as
of one time to energy of another time.
example is the movement. So both sensor and actuators are collectively transducers. Transducers are devices. So these are the samples of the inputs or outputs of some of the quantity being measured. So the light level example is the light dependent resistors, photodiode, phototransistor, solar cell, and the output device is etc. The temperature, force pressure, positions, the speed sensor, the sounds. Example is the speeds, the tacho generator, Doppler effect sensors, AC/DC motors, the output stepper motor, and brake. Some of the example of the output of the speed sensor. So next is what is the smart sensor? Smart sensor is an analog digital transducer combined with a processing unit and a communication interface. It electronic and controller processor that supports some intelligence in a single package. This integrates sensor which has electronics and the transduction element together on one silicon chip. This system can be called a system on chip or SoC.
The main aim of the integrating the electronics and the sensor
And the sensor is to make a sensor which can be called a the main aim of smart sensor didn't have the ability to make some decision.
smart sensor has its own microbrain.
So smart sensor has its own microbrain. Sensor plus integrated circuit equals to smart sensor. These are a basic conventional sensor, integrated circuits, Arduino microprocessor or communication system. sensor with its own microbrain, which is now capable of working independently. So, general architecture of smart sensor. The basic architectural components of smart sensor are listed as follows. So there's our architecture of smart sensor. First is sensing element, transduction element. Next is amplifier. Next is the third one is a sample and hold, analog multiplexer, analog to digital converter or ADC, officer and temperature compensation, and digital to analog converter or DAC, memory or serial communication, and a processor. So that's our the general architecture of smart sensor. Some examples. So we have five main parts of sensor. Node are the central unit. It is in the form of microprocessor which manage the task. The second is the battery. It's the source of energy. So we already know the battery is the some of the source of energy when the smart sensor. So the third one is the transceiver. It interacts with the environment and collects data. The fourth one is the memory. Use as storage media for storing data or processing data. The last one is the communication module. It includes the transceiver and forwards couriers and data to and from central module. So this is a sample of sensor, the rotational or diagram of the five main parts of sensor node. Next is the information coding and processing. The signal recorded by many sensors are typically low in amplitude. Integration of interface electronics and signal processing circuitry and the sensor side, the monolithic or hybrid, serve as member functions, including the signal simplification, impedance, transformation, signal filtering and buffering, and multiplexing. CMOs amplifiers are perhaps the most suitable since they provide high gain and high input impedance through relatively simple and compact circuits are readily compatible with the integration of high density digital circuitry on the same chip. In addition to signal amplification, impedance transformation and signal filtering are also required. So, next is the data compensation. The main circuit block required before the digital control and manipulation of sensor data can take place is the analog digital converter. Once the sensor data is digitized, a variety of signal processing schemes can be used to correct for a number, cancellation, auto calibration, self-testing, and fault detection and correction and linearity correction. Auto calibration is a very desirable function for smart sensors. So most sensors should be adjusted for changes for gain and offset, and it can be reliability and accuracy. So here are some top smart sensors. So are you familiar with the temperature sensor? Some of temperature sensor we currently use in our house or this time of pandemic. We have a temperature sensor. So next is proximity sensor, the pressure sensor, gas and smoke sensor, accelerometer sensors, level sensors, image sensors, motion detection sensors, optical sensors, and gyroscope sensors. So in the next ng few slides we have are the different example of these sensors. These are the sample. The smart sensor. Smart sensor are the temperature sensor. These are the thermistor, RID, infrared sensor, IC, semiconductor. So what is the temperature sensor? So a device used to measure amount of heat energy that allows to detect a physical change in temperature from a particular source and converts the data for a device or user. It's known as a temperature sensor. So these are the examples. Next is the proximity sensor. So what is proximity sensor? A device that detects the presence or absence of a nearby object or properties of that object and converts into a signal which can be easily read by users. Simple electronic instruments without getting in a contact with them. So, example is the ultrasonic sensor, photoelectric sensor, and capacitive proximity sensor. So next is the pressure sensor. So what is pressure sensor? A pressure sensor is a device that senses pressure and converts it into an electric signal. Here the depends upon the level of pressure. Example are air pressure sensor, water pressure sensor, low pressure sensor. So these are pressure sensor. Next is gas and smoke sensor. We already know the gas and smoke sensor. Example, there is the LPG sensor, alcohol sensor, photoelectric smoke sensor, ionized smoke sensor. We already know. We already see this one in some of the in our school. The smoke sensor. Gas sensors are especially used to monitor change of the air quality and detect the presence of various gases. A smoke sensor is a device that senses smoke, airborne particulate, and gases, and its level. So that's are the smoke, gas, and the smoke sensor. Next is the level sensor. What is a level sensor? A sensor which is used the level or amount of fluids, liquids, or other substances that flow in an open or closed system and called level sensor. So example is the liquid sensor, the capacitive level sensor, and the flow with level the motion detection sensor or level sensor. Next, what is motion detection sensor? A motion detector is an electronic device which is used to detect the physical movement, motion in a given area, and it transforms motion into an electric signal, motion of any object or motion of human beings. Example of this are the currently research study of my one of my friend. The research study is the physical distancing sensor. Once you near 5 meters, the sensor will automatically trigger. So example is the ultrasonic sensor, PR sensor, and microwave sensor. So next is the gyroscope sensor. What is gyroscope sensor? A sensor device which is used to measure the angular rate or angular velocity is known as gyro sensor. The most important application is monitoring the orientation of an object. So, example, ring laser gyroscope, optical gyroscope, digital gyroscope, and vibrating gyroscope. So, gyroscope sensors. Next is water quality sensor. What is water quality sensor? Water quality sensors are used to detect the water quality and ion monitoring primarily in water distribution system. Example is the pH sensor, turbidity sensor, water conductive sensor. So next is what are the already know what are the advantage and disadvantage of a smart sensor. The advantages is the smart sensor takes over the conditioning and control of the sensor signal, reducing the load on the central control system, allowing faster system operation. Direct digital control provides high accuracy not achievable with analog control system and central processing. Third one, in the advantage of smart sensor is the cost of smart sensor system is presently higher than that of conventional system, but when the cost of maintenance is of programming is of adding new sensors taken into account, the long-term cost of sensor system is less. The last one is the individual controller can monitor and control more than one process variable. And the disadvantages of a smart sensor. If upgrading to smart sensor, care has to be taken when mixing all devices with new sensors since they may not be compatible. So, if the new trend of smart sensor are not compatible with the old version of technology. So, next is if a bus wire fails, the total system is down, which is not the case with discrete wiring. However, with discrete wiring, if one sensor connection fails, it may necessary to shut the system down. The problem of bus wire failure can be alleviated by the use of redundant backup bus. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Cyril, for sharing your knowledge to everyone.
For giving of certificate, allow me to read the certification first. Republic of the Philippines, Bohol Island State University, Calapi Campus, San Isidro, Calapi, Bohol. Certificate of recognition is awarded to Mr. John Cyril Gulay in grateful acknowledgement of his distinguished and invaluable service rendered as guest of honor and speaker during the webinar of explaining Smart Sensor 2022, giving this 28th day of July in this year 2022.
To formally end this webinar, may we have Mr. John Cyril J. Gulay to give his closing remarks.
Students, faculty and staff, to our team of Bohol Island State University Calapi Campus, thank you for giving opportunity for being a speaker of this webinar. Thank you so much and keep safe and God bless.
This has been your host, Jessica C. Crita.
And this is Joramel and Granaderos. May God bless us all. Thank you.
A dream, a thought, a reality. Bohol Island State University. Sail, BISU sail, from the north to the south, east to west. Fly, BISU fly, from the island of Bohol